Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. In the name of God, the gracious, the merciful, all praise belongs to God, and peace be upon His servants whom He chose. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today's topic is about the 5 daily contact prayers, or the Salah, in the Quran. As we know, Muslims have been praying 5 times a day for the past 1400 years. And until recently, I call them New Wave scholars, they've began questioning the 5 daily contact prayers. They've said the Quran does not mention 5, but it actually mentions 3 prayers. And ironically, another set of New Wave scholars have come along and said the Quran mentions 2 and not 3 or 5. So the question is, what does the Quran actually say? How many daily contact prayers, how many salahs are we supposed to do a day? As the title of this video suggests, there are 5 daily contact prayers in the Quran, and I will show you the evidence of this, inshallah. The first thing we need to know is that there are only 2 verses in the entire Quran that mention the timing and the duration of the Salah. These 2 verses are 11:114 and 17:78. In the 114, God says, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَيِ النَّهَارِ وَزُلَفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. Establish the Salah at طرفي of the day and zulafan from the night. And in 1778, God says, أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ إِلَى غَسَقِ اللَّيْلِ وَقُرْآنِ الْفَجْرِ. Establish the Salah at liduluk of the sun until ghasaq of the night and Quran at the dawn. The second thing we need to note is that both of these verses begin with the imperative phrase أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ, or establish the Salah. This means that whatever precedes this phrase is going to be the details, the timing, and the duration of the Salah. And the third thing we need to note is that each of these verses speak of the 5 daily Salahs. It's not as if 11:114 speaks of 3 and 17:78 speaks of 2, you put them together, now you have 5. No. 11:14 speaks of 5 and 17:78 speak of the same 5, but they address the same 5 from a different angle. And inshallah, we will study each of these verses. The first verse we want to look at is 11:114, where God says, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَيِ النَّهَارِ وَزُلَفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. Establish the Salah at tarafay of the day and zulafan from the night. Note here I'm maintaining these Arabic key words just for the time being so that we can define them and appropriately understand the verse. I'm going to split this verse into 2 parts and then add a little diagram on the bottom left so that we can facilitate a visual understanding as well. The first part of the verse, God says, establish the Salah at tarafay of the day. The word tarafay comes from tarafa, and it means extremity, edge, portion, segment, end, or side of something. And because this word tarafay is in its dual tense, it refers to 2 extremities. Therefore, God is saying, establish the Salah at 2 extremities of the day. The second key word we would like to pay attention to is the word day or nahar, and its opposite end of the spectrum, night or layl. As far as the Quran is concerned, whenever the sun is above the horizon, it is considered daytime. And whenever the sun is below the horizon, it is considered nighttime. There are many verses in the Quran that demonstrate this, but here I'll just share one. In chapter 91, verse 1 through 4, where God says, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا. By the sun and its brightness, the moon that follows it, the day that reveals it, the night that covers it. The day that reveals it being the sun, the night that covers it being the sun. This means that whenever the sun is revealed, that means it is considered daytime. And whenever the sun is covered, it is considered nighttime. Therefore, whenever the sun is above the horizon, it is considered daytime, and whenever the sun is below the horizon, it is considered nighttime. This means that establish the Salah at 2 extremities of the day. God here is saying that there are 2 prayers that need to be done when the sun is above the horizon. People often make the mistake of saying the 2 extremities of the day are the dawn and the evening. However, this is incorrect. This is because the dawn and the evening are actually part of the night and they are not part of the day. In this verse, God says establish the Salah at 2 extremities of the day. And as I mentioned earlier, the day is when the sun is above the horizon. So this means that there are 2 prayers that must be done when the sun is above the horizon. Moreover, in chapter 20, verse 130, God says, and glorify the name of your Lord at the extremities of the day. Extremities here is in its plural tense, being 3 or more extremities of the day. So this means, as far as the Quran is concerned, there are at least 3 or more extremities during the daytime. So the question is, which two extremities of the day is God talking about in this particular verse if they are not the dawn and the evening? And the answer to this is actually twofold. The first answer is that Muslims have been praying for the past 1400 years at noon and afternoon. The first extremity would be between noon and afternoon, and the second extremity would be between afternoon and sunset. And the second answer to this would be in chapter 17 verse 78, which we will cover soon. The second part of this verse, God tells us to establish the salah at zulafan from the night. The word zulafan comes from the root zalafa, and it means to come near or next to something else. It also means to advance or to approach towards something else. And because the word zulafan here is in its plural tense, this means there are 3 or more near parts from the night. And the reason why God is using the plural tense of the word zulafan, being the 3 or more near parts, is because indeed there are 3 near parts from the night. The first near part is the evening, which is next or near the darkness. And the second near part is a darkness, which is next to the evening and the dawn. And the third near part is a dawn, which is next to the darkness. So as we can see in this diagram, these are the 3 near parts from the night. And this is why God is using the plural tense of the word zulafan. And by means of a simple observation, in the first half of this verse, God tells us to establish the salah at 2 extremities of the day, and the second part, he says, and 3 near parts from the night. We have 2 prayers during the day and 3 prayers at night. These are the 5 daily salahs that have been practiced by the Muslims for the past 1400 years. So as we can see, this verse alone shows us that there are 5 daily salahs. Let's carry on to the next verse, which is 1778, which also talks about the same 5 daily salahs. In 1778, God says, أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر. Establish the salah at liduluk of the sun until ghasaq of the night and Quran at the dawn. In the first part of this verse, God tells us to establish the salah at liduluk of the sun. The word liduluk comes from the root dalaka, and it means a declining, falling, or pushing of something from one position to another. We'll just translate it as declining here. However, we also need to note the preposition li attached to this word. The li here is called lam as-sababiyya wa tawqitiyya, or the lam of reason and time. And this preposition signifies a repeated process and not just a one-time deal. God does not say establish the salah at duluk of the sun. He says li duluk of the sun, which signifies a repeated process. Otherwise, there would be really no need for this preposition. God would have just said duluk of the sun, and that's it. But he said li duluk to signify a repeated process that will occur throughout the day. The first time in which the sun declines is at noon, and the second time in which the sun declines is in the afternoon, which is the midpoint between the noon and the sunset, and the third time in which the sun declines is at sunset, in which the sun dips below the horizon. And notice here that the first and the second decline is in perfect concordance with the 2 extremities of the day that are mentioned in level 114, and the third decline in which the sun dips below the horizon is in perfect concordance with the first of the 3 near parts from the night that is mentioned in level 114. In the second part of this verse, God tells us to establish the salah until ghasaq of the night. The word ghasaq comes from the root ghasaqa, and it means darkness. And this is the time in which the sun rays completely dissipate in the sky, leaving us in a completely dark sky. And this is when the darkness begins. And this is in perfect concordance with the second of the 3 near parts or near portions from the night that are mentioned in level 114. In the last part of this verse, God tells us to establish the salah and Quran at the dawn. We need to note here the conjugate noun and or wa in Arabic. This conjugate noun connects the establishment of the salah and to also recite the Quran during the dawn time. The dawn is when the sun rays begin to creep into the dark sky, and this is the third of the 3 near parts from the night that are mentioned in level 114. So as we can see, chapter 17 verse 78 also speaks of the 5 daily salahs. God says, establish the salah at repeated declining, the liduluk of the sun, until the darkness of the night, and Qur'an at the dawn. The repeated declining, as we mentioned earlier, are the noon, the afternoon, and the sunset. The darkness is the darkness, and the dawn is the dawn. These are the 5 daily salahs that are also in perfect concordance that are mentioned in 11.114. So let's recap and put both verses into perspective. In 11.114, God says to establish the salah at 2 extremities of the day, and we've mentioned that the 2 extremities are the noon and the afternoon. This is also confirmed or detailed in 1778, where God says to establish the salah at the repeated declining of the sun. God also says in 11.14 to establish the salah at the 3 near parts from the night, and as we mentioned earlier, the 3 near parts from the night are the evening, the darkness, and the dawn. And this is also confirmed and detailed in 1778, where the 3rd part of the declining is the evening, and then God says to establish the salah until the darkness of the night and Qur'an at the dawn. The darkness of the night and Qur'an at the dawn. So as we can see, 11.114 mentions 5 and 1778 mention the same 5. And this has been the practice for the Muslims for the past 1400 years. I hope this has helped you understand that there has been the 5 daily prayers since the time of the Prophet Muhammad. And I hope, inshallah, that this will help you understand that the Quran indeed is a fully detailed scripture, and that the 5 daily salahs are mentioned in the Quran. Assalamu alaikum, and inshallah we'll see you next time.